Hello again, everybody. We are back for part 2 of our EMF series where we're speaking specifically about wireless radiation. And we promised you, and we're going to deliver on it. Today, we're going to bring you some tips on how you can mitigate the effects of the radiation coming out of your devices. I'm Agatha.
And I'm Ken.
We are both functional medicine health coaches, and we are on a mission to bring you the knowledge to help empower you to take control of your health. Can you talk to us a little bit more about why isn't this more readily available, this information?
Yeah, it's a really difficult question to answer and something that I've struggled with. Like it really doesn't make any sense, right? If this stuff was dangerous, then why isn't the government protecting us? Why aren't health authorities telling us about the dangers? These devices are everywhere. We use them all the time. There are literally millions upon millions of cell phones. Everyone has a Wi-Fi router. There's cell towers on every street block. So how can they not be safe? If they weren't, wouldn't we have heard of it by now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the way I've kind of started thinking about this is the same way in which we figured out how smoking was bad for us. So the first medical report showing links between smoking and lung cancer started appearing in the 1920s. And the fact that smoking caused cancers was proven by scientists in the 1950s and 60s. But Philip Morris and the big tobacco companies were fighting it, and it wasn't really until the 90s that they acknowledged that there was a link between smoking and cancer. But even still today, you can buy a pack of cigarettes. And if you choose to smoke, you can, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is they're heavily taxed now, and those taxes are helped to pay for the healthcare costs of smokers who do get cancer. So in other words, it took 70 years of people smoking before governments and public health authorities intervened. So I'm thinking EMFs could be the smoking of our generation.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. But let's give you some tips in the meantime. What can you do about this exposure? And before we give you our 5 top tips, we just want you to be aware of something because there are different levels of intervention. Some that are temporary but really easy and actionable, and some that involve a little bit more work but will be more permanent. So what we thought would be beneficial in this video this time around is just to focus on 5 super actionable ones that will already help reduce your exposure, and hopefully you will find that they're beneficial as well. So what's our tip number 1?
Tip number 1 is distance is your friend. So the strength of wireless radiation decreases dramatically with distance. So the difference of having a phone against your ear when making a call and having it just 5 centimeters away is that you get a quarter of the exposure. And if you use speakerphone, for example, and you set it on the table, maybe a meter away, you get 1/50th of the exposure. So this is massive change depending on kind of how far you are and the device that's emitting the radiation.
That's huge. And I know a question that's going to come up. Well, what about if I put headphones in there and then the infamous Bluetooth headphones that people are talking about? So maybe just point out what happens with the Bluetooth one. That is the same. Yeah.
Yeah, so with Bluetooth headphones, obviously Bluetooth is another form of radiation that we're then putting right into our ear canal, right next to our brain. So generally that doesn't improve things. If anything, kind of making things worse. So yeah, we're not a big fan of Bluetooth headsets.
Yeah.
And wired headsets to some extent aren't that helpful as well. There's some people who would think that the radiation can travel up the wired headset just as easily as having it next to your ear. So speakerphone is best.
Perfect. Tip number 2, keep cordless devices out of your bedroom. So this could be wireless alarms, it could be your cordless phones. Those are a big one. That's constantly, the base of those phones is constantly emitting. So you definitely want to make sure none of that exists in your bedroom.
Tip number 3. So laptops don't go on your lap, right? Like I was saying with
Bad name for that.
one, where distance is your friend. If you have it right against your body, whether it's your laptop, your tablet, or your phone, and you're using it all the time, that means it's kind of where you receive the peak amount of radiation. So where possible, we want distance, and we also want to use wired devices, making use of Ethernet cables. So the old school wired connections, those are the safest.
Okay, tip number 4. Let's talk about this airplane mode on your phone. Our general advice is that if you are not needing to use or connect to wireless, or actually receiving a phone call or connect to Bluetooth, that you favor putting it on airplane mode. But just be careful because especially with the iPhones, I know with some of the new updates, you can put it on airplane mode and your Wi-Fi and your Bluetooth are still connected. So you want to make sure that those are off. Now, we know that that can't always be practical, especially if you need to be reached. But remember, you're connecting to multiple things simultaneously. You have your Bluetooth connection, you have it trying to connect to a wireless source, and then you have it trying to connect to your operator to make phone calls. So pick and choose what is needed so that you minimize that exposure. And one of our big pet peeves, and possibly the worst one that we see, the worst offender, is people who leave this on cellular data. Cellular data has the impact that we showed you in the last video that is as bad as when you are making a phone call. And we see people with that on all day long and then in a pocket somewhere close to their body. So if we can eliminate that already, that is a huge, huge win.
And lastly, tip number 5, and a really easy thing to do is to put your Wi-Fi on a timer. So you know how we have those timers for our Christmas lights where they turn on at night and then they turn off during the day? Well, you can use that same timer for your Wi-Fi so that when you go to bed and no one's using it, so it doesn't affect anybody, it turns off automatically. And before you wake up in the morning and before anybody needs their Wi-Fi again, it turns on automatically. So it's kind of a very safe way to go about using your Wi-Fi, whereby when you need it, it's there, but when you don't, it's not there.
That's great. And why at night, Ken? Why do we suggest even at night, besides the fact that you're not using it?
Well, good question. And it's because when we're sleeping and when our body is trying to regenerate and heal, the less stress that we place upon it during that time, the better job our body has of going through that process and making us stronger and more robust during the day.
Yeah, it's perfect. I think we both do that, right, on a regular basis in our houses. So
Absolutely.
Our spouses aren't necessarily in favor, but they're learning to adapt. So this could be a challenge that you face in your own household of one of you agrees, the other one disagrees. So find a happy medium in there somewhere. And we get it. We live in modern times. We have technology all around us and we need to learn to adapt. But I think one of the key messages that we want to convey is that your home should be your sanctuary and your safe haven and the place where you can regenerate and your cells can rebuild. So if you can minimize how many toxins you're being exposed to, EMFs, wireless radiation being one of them, you know, it's going to make a huge difference in your lives. It's hard to control what goes on outside of your home, but within your home, it is totally within your control. We hope that you found this session informative. Both Ken and I are available to help. So if you feel that you want to discuss a little bit more about what your exposure levels are and you have more questions and want more information, feel free to contact either one of us. Our contact details are below and we'd be happy to help. We would also love to hear if you found these tips useful, what other questions you might have. Please post them in the comments below. Thank you so much, and we hope that we'll get a chance to connect with you again. Bye for now.
Bye.